Welcome to the Yarn Trekker podcast, a knitting travel adventure. I'm Anne Mockros. In this episode, we are continuing to collect clues for the mystery cowl on the Cottage Country Yarn Crawl, visiting the towns of Bobcageyon, Lindsay, and Haliburton, Ontario, and the local yarn shops, Granny Bird's, Aberdeen's, and JanKnit Studio. Please check the notes section on the YouTube page of this episode for links to the stores, yarn dyers, and designers mentioned in this podcast. And please click the subscribe button if you want to know when future podcasts are posted. This is Bobcageyon. It's a hot summer day in July, and all the decorations are still up from Canada Day celebrations. This is an ideal place to spend a summer. I don't really want to leave. I wonder if I could find a cottage to rent and just settle down and work on my cowl for a few weeks. You know, as soon as I got here, a song started playing in my head. Can you guess which one? Do you know the Tragically Hip? You'll find Granny Bird's yarns downtown. The front window is whimsically decorated with the sun and clouds hanging from the ceiling and yarn growing on trees. At least hanging from trees. There's a wide selection of natural and blended yarns here for everyone's taste, and beautiful samples that show off the yarns and spark your creativity. The shop is large and inviting, well laid out, with a table and chairs in the center, welcoming people who drop by and want to knit. I wanted to spend the rest of the day here. Julie Anderson named her shop after her grandmother. At the desk you will find the basket of her grandmother's mending Julie was given after her grandmother passed. It is just as she had left it, with Julie's grandfather's socks to be mended resting on top. And beside that is the Chamber of Commerce's New Business Achievement Award. The shop is active in the community and with local knitters. Granny Bird's entered a team in the Terry Fox Run and holds a food drive before Christmas. The Kawartha Knitting and Crochet Club meets here on Wednesday nights. It's a drop-in, usually hosting 15 to 20 people of all ages. The shop offers knitting socials, informal help, and knit-alongs. And the shop runs Fair Fridays, working with fair organizers to increase the number of exhibits, encourage people to exhibit their work, and sponsoring prizes in the fall fair. I stopped for a bite to eat at Ember's Grill House before moving on. As I was leaving, I saw these lyrics on the wall. So I'm not the only one walking around here humming that tune. It's about half an hour's drive from Bobcageyon to Lindsay. Once there, I walked around the boat locks, which are part of the Trent Severn Waterway, and the downtown area. There are about 20,000 people who live in Lindsay. I enjoyed taking a look around. I'd never been through Lindsay before, even though my mother and uncle grew up here. Aberdeen's Wool Company is in the downtown area of Lindsay, in a big old house that was the doctor's house at one time. Heather not only owns the shop, but is the creator of Tangled Gypsy's yarn. Amanda works in the shop also, and was there the day I dropped by. She kindly took a look at my cowl. I'd made a mistake in the lacework, and she took a look at it to see if she could fix the error to save me ripping out a few rows. In the end, I had to rip out a few rows.
We do custom orders, we do a lot of in-store help. I love teaching.
Great.
So I actually learned how to knit and how to knit and cast on, in New Orleans, and then came back up here, and I didn't know anyone who knit. There wasn't really a store to go in and learn these sorts of things when I was learning, and YouTube was not what it is now. So most of what I learned out of books, which is a pretty brutal way to learn. There was a lot of swearing, a lot of throwing, but because of that, I think I developed a really good sense of how to read my knitting and how to recognize what I was doing.
And you're standing in front of the Tangled Gypsies yarn. Do you want
Yes,
to talk
which
about that a
is
bit?
that's our in-house yarn. It's all dyed here in Lindsay and all hand dyed. We process it here at the shop, which is a lot of winding. I'm basically a fiddler crab at this point because my right arm gets a lot of work. And then we sell it out of our store, and we sell it online on our online shop as well.
Great.
It's fingering weight and 80% superwash wool and 20% nylon. Great for socks and shawls. A 450 yard skein will get you either a shawl or a pair of socks. These take, are they adorable?
They're lovely.
Aren't they so cute? They are just 100 yard skein. So I figured it would be a great baby shower present because it's cute little hand dyed pair of baby socks, and they're so adorable. The 100 yard skeins are only $7. So $7 for a cute little baby shower gift, I thought would be good. Yeah, and that's a free pattern that's available here in the shop and on Ravelry under our design name collectively, Heather and I, is the owl and the snail. I'm the snail and she's the owl.
We are in Haliburton, Ontario, to visit JanKnit's studio. The route I usually take when traveling the 4.5-hour journey from Muskoka to Ottawa takes me through Haliburton, and the park at Head Lake is a convenient spot for me to get out and stretch my legs. There was a train stop here connecting Haliburton to Lindsay between 1878 and 1978. The track is now a hiking trail, and the station was moved to the park and houses an art gallery. I've always wondered why this town was named after a Nova Scotian. Thomas Chandler Haliburton was a lawyer, judge, and member of the provincial legislature in Nova Scotia in the early 1800s. But he's better known as the author of The Clockmaker or the Sayings of Sam Slick of Slickville. Haliburton published his satiric stories of Sam Slick the Yankee clock salesman in the Nova Scotian newspaper. Later they were published in book form in England and became a huge success. It was the 1800s version of going viral, and he continued to publish more Sam Slick stories for years afterward. This area is known for its many artists, so I thought the town might have been named after one of Canada's successful authors. Alas, it was because he promoted immigration the local economy in this part of what was Upper Canada needed to succeed. But when I drive through Haliburton, I remember one of Canada's great natural resources: comedy. Look, here's JanKnit's studio on the main street. Hi, so here we are in Jan's Knits in Haliburton, and this is Janet.
Yep.
Thank you very much for letting me interview you here.
Yeah, no problem.
That's good. So you were at the Kawartha Yarn Festival.
Yeah, had a booth there. Yep.
Great. And this is your shop. How long have you been
I
running the
opened
shop?
in 2007.
Okay.
And I've been kind of the owner and runner of the shop. So do my samples, and my background was I worked with a designer in Port Perry where we knit with fur yarn. So I still have a bit of fur yarn, and I add it to some of my knitting and stuff. So.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. And do you have some we can?
Yeah,
we
actually,
can look at?
there's some right here.
Great.
This is a scarf with it, and I've also put it on some felted mitts, some
those are
fox,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've got some scarves and headbands.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, and I see you carry a selection of yarns.
Yes, I got a good selection of different yarns, and I got into carrying Husqvarna Viking sewing machines in 2012. So with the introduction of the sewing machines, I brought in some fabrics, just 2.5-inch strips. I don't really have a lot of room for full bolts or anything, so I went with the 2.5-inch strips and make some samples up in that. And I brought in some threads, and a lot of notions and things that people can use. So it's a little bit more than just a yarn shop now. So
Good. Yeah, that's terrific.
yeah.
And I see some really fun buttons there too.
Yes,
And,
got buttons and
That's great. And
a few zippers and books, knitting books, and
see.
yeah.
Good. And I think I noticed some Chowgu knitting needles over there
Yes,
too.
yes, I carry that, and I carry bamboo needles.
I picked up 2 balls of green and 2 balls of white Debbie Bliss Blue-Faced Leicester or BFL wool in Aran weight to make hats, a mini skein of tangled gypsies yarn, some funky buttons at 2 different shops, some Chaigu red knit needles to try, and some Sugarbush Rapture yarn in worsted weight. It's 50% llama, 50% merino. Sugarbush is in Listowel in southwestern Ontario. I'm planning to knit the Lyle Owl Pillow by Natalie Servant with it. It's one of her 1920s Art Deco style designs based on a carving on a bank building in Toronto. I bought the Chaigu knit red needles to knit the mystery cowl. I couldn't find my 4mm needles and eventually realized I was using them for a different project. This is the first time I've tried these needles and absolutely love them. There are 3 more shops to visit to get the rest of the clues so I can finish the cowl. In the next episode, I'll finish the yarn crawl and take you to Woodville to see where Sheldridge yarns are dyed, the historic and literary town of Lakefield to happenstance books and yarns, and finally to Peterborough and Needles in the Hay, where I will get the last stamp on my passport and hand the passport in to be part of the draw for prizes. And of course, at each shop, I will get another portion of the pattern so that when I get home, I can finish my cowl. Cottage Country is an ideal place to knit, relax, and spend the dog days of summer. But it's time to go, pack up, and head home. I hope you enjoyed doing a little armchair traveling with me while we explored these yarn shops and their towns. You can follow Yarn Trekker on Instagram at Macrosa or Facebook as Yarn Trekker. Until next time.